if the future of work is going to demand creativity, awareness, and initiative, then how? The question then becomes, how do we as leaders create environments where our people can do that? And then how as people do we figure that out?
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Keynote Curators Podcast. I'm Seth Deckman, your Keynote Curator. Our guest today is a specialist in self-expression, and you can tell by her last name, Holler. Judi Holler, welcome to the podcast.
I feel like I have to start with a holla. It's just, I can't help myself. And it's so nice to be here with you, my new friend.
Thank you, Judy. The thing you're most known for is self-expression, being fully self-expressed. Listeners, viewers, subscribers are a team of people, a tribe of people, a group, a clan that love self-expression, love the whole idea of swinging out, but sometimes find themselves in a world of ambivert, introvert and extrovert kind of combined. You specialize, whether you're moderating or keynoting, in unlocking the self-expression in all of us. But that begs the question, Judy, and this is where I want to start. If you help us unlock it, we must assume that it's at times locked. What has us have it be locked up, be constrained, have that lid on it, and then walk us through kind of your process and your view of how to kind of unlock that expression.
I love the word unlock. There's just something really cool and physical. The physical improviser in me loves, we play with objects and use our hands and our bodies to fully express on an improv stage. My background's in the improv theater, so I studied professionally, for those of you who aren't aware, at Second City in Chicago. So the physicality of improv, we use the tools we have, which is body, energy, yes and, eye contact, listening, stuff like this to sort of navigate really uncomfortable stuff on stage because there's no script and it's terrifying. So we sort of use what God gave us to figure that out. So I love the word unlock because there's a physicality to that. And the reason I really love that you started there is because the whole way I got to this work on self-expression is because I was locked. I was lost. I literally lost it. I had built this 7-figure keynote speaking business, on my own, blood, sweat, and tears, right? Hustling from the ground up, left corporate America, 15 years in hotel sales and marketing, built this award-winning career in hospitality sales and marketing, and started taking improv. It changed everything, started speaking about it for free anywhere I could. That took off. I wrote a book called Fear is My Homeboy. And I am, in 2019, a new author, more booked than I've ever been. I have got the content. I am out there killing it. And all of a sudden, around 2020, well, the world changes in 2020. So we've got that kind of going on, right? But I'm still really busy. My radio television degree came in very handy. I pivoted very fastly and naturally and, with ease into the virtual world. So that felt good. We were really busy. But all of a sudden, I'm writing about this in my next book. I call them the money grabbers. The money grabbers started coming around. And I was so busy and so in the hustle and so sort of a prisoner to my to-do list and to the tasks in my business that I lost the self-expression that got me into the business and that made me successful. I started outsourcing all of these things that built me. And I call them the money grabbers because all of a sudden you get really successful. And I don't know if you can hear me sniffing. They start sniffing. They start coming around, these branding agencies, these marketers, these, agents, managers, whatever it might be, right? People that, I know what you need now. I know how I can fix you. Actually, if you do this thing or if you go this direction you need a YouTube, you need a this, you need a brand, we need a clothing line, we need a workbooks, planners. And then all of a sudden you're and before you know it, you are like a shell of yourself. You wake up one day and you go, where did I go? Number one, where did my money go? and number two, where did I go? So I lost myself. I was so deep in self-doubt. I was so overwhelmed. I was in deep analysis paralysis about every move I'd made. I never used to be that way. I was constantly asking everybody, is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? Am I like, and what I'm really wanting to know is not, is this okay? But am I okay? Like, is everything okay here? Because I was so disconnected from self. So I moved to the desert in 2022. I leave the Midwest and take this journey west. I'm very lost, very confused, spinning my wheels, having a hard time. Like I built a successful business. It was working and things were good. But why was I feeling this deep pull to sort of burn it down and to sort of like wake up something new inside of myself? Most importantly, why was I feeling this deep desire to come back home to this verb I was born with? I couldn't shake this last name I had been given. And it was sort of lying dormant for all of these years alongside of stacks and stacks and stacks of books of poetry that I had never shared publicly. And I moved to the desert. I'm losing myself. What am I doing? What does this all mean? And why would I do this dangerous thing, blowing up my keynote speaking business that's working very well in corporate to what? Holler at my dreams? Are you kidding me? Like, what does this even mean? And will this work? And poetry? Are you kidding? Like, people are going to laugh me off the stage if I do. Like, what is graffiti? No way could I ever graffiti my suits. You've got to be kidding me. Like, boomboxing? Stop it. So I just shoved it down. And I moved to the desert and start the journey back home to myself. I started performing in poetry slams, writing, went to Barnes and Noble, grabbed a stack of books in verse, children's books in verse, pens, paper, all kinds of stuff to sort of like reconnect with this artist that was really lying dormant since I had left Chicago, and just year by year, month by month, started experimenting and
Yeah.
putting myself in this sort of like laboratory of life to see what this all meant and what does this really mean and how could this possibly connect into the world of corporate that I had spent 20 years in, but I was also an artist. And the world has changed. And I was watching also simultaneously while I was finding myself, I was watching us sort of steamroll into this creative revolution. And we're in it, and the old ways of leading have to be revisited because
Yeah.
we are new. And I think we're living in a world now where people are just ready to, we just want to take off the mask. And kind of back to the beginning of the story, people are so ready. Like they don't want to know. Yes, we want to figure out how to navigate the uncertainty and we want to feel chill about change and we want to be braver and more confident. Sure. But what people really want to know, Seth, like, I don't know if you're hearing this, but people just want to know, am I safe here? Like, is this okay? Am I okay? And if I bring the full expression of who I am to this party, to this keynote stage, to the board table, to the dinner table, to the networking event, like, am I okay? Am I safe to do that? And I think if we can wake up all those sleeping giants, I think if we can find a way to pull the best out of our people and let them rip, watch out. So I'm like,
Yeah.
on that mission right now. So that's the story to kind of how we got here, Cliff Note wise. But I lost myself. I had to lose myself to find this. And, at the time it was so painful and so hard. And we've all been through those like dark night of the soul moments. But now I'm sitting in such gratitude for it because I don't think I would be here had I not gone there. And I took really good notes along the way. And now I teach what I've learned.
Well, I think if I had to put that whole story into a GPT prompt and ask it to summarize it in 2 words, you would be called a safe cracker, somebody who unlocks things.
I love
So there's so much there. I know our audience and our viewers, thanks again. I just want to thank them for coming back. We appreciate it. They come for this great stories, these great content, and really identifying whether you're a business owner, you're an event marketer, event planner, conference professional, meeting professional. Your origin story is part of the service industry. We have a lot of viewers and subscribers that come from that industry. There's a couple of things I kind of want to spotlight and then land the plane once again, because you really touched on a lot of important things. But, dare I say, and correct me where I'm wrong, but part of the thesis after, getting to know you is your success from your background in corporate and your creative experience. I don't want to take any merit away from it, but it almost came with ease and grace And I don't want to say there wasn't hard work, but you got to seven figures on your grit, which is part of your core virtue. The question is, Judy, before we spotlight the 72,000 other things I want to underline in what you shared, is you began the money grabbers, right? Marketing, branding, workbooks, this, that, and the other, and a new website, and SEO, and AdWords, and all these things that one thinks that they should do. They were grabbing the money that you gave to them. And where was the pivotal point where you went to the desert or on the way where you woke up and you said, they might have been grabbing money, but I was putting it there for them to grab, which I
Yes.
would guess is the source or the way to access that turning point, that fulcrum of transformation, which then opened up your reconnecting with poetry. Is that a way to see it?
Yeah, I think, look, we need people around us that are going to help us get to where we want to go. And, this is certainly not a story about not making investments in yourself, of course, right? So we have to surround ourselves with the people that are smarter than us, faster than us, more knowledgeable than us in other areas. But may we never do it, and hear me loud and clear when I say, may we never do it when we are outsourcing the things that built us, when we are outsourcing the things that only we can do. Let me give you another story that is probably one of the most powerful, and it's very recent. I call it I haven't given it a formal name, but maybe this is going to be the name, because I keep calling it my creative coming out of the closet moment, literally. And I feel like I've always been a creative, right? I was sort of like I did speech meets in grade school, Seth. Like I was like a baby keynote speaker, not speech and debate, like memorizing monologues and winning gold ribbons around,
right. Who wants to double dutch? Who wants to hopscotch? Who wants to go play Foursquare? Who wants to go in the third grade to a speech meet? Me.
Me and my sweet dad, right? Like would sit in the front row. Like I think of all the parents, but I remember like doing one of my first. Mrs. Brown was my fifth grade teacher, and she like nudged me out on that ledge, and I'll never forget my first one. I swear, Seth, I remember it like it was yesterday. I memorized this big monologue, I don't know, from maybe Steel Magnolias or something, right? And I remember there was she was probably 52, but to be honest, she was probably 32, but I was so young that I thought she was 52. But anyway, I swear I saw like a tear drop her eye, and I was like, is that woman? Like it was like the first time I physically remember using energy, using enthusiasm, energy, God-given talent, right? To like evoke emotion in a room. And I remember that I don't know how I don't have kids of my own. I have stepsons. So I don't know how old you are in fifth grade, but whatever age that was, I remember at that age. So
you're like
I think
11,
it was kind of like
10, 11.
11. So I was like 11. Yeah. But I remember sort of being born with some of these gifts. So yes, we're going to invest in people to help us to get to where we want to go and all of that, but the creative coming out of the closet. So this is another one of those moments where, so I have a book coming out in September, and we were struggling early this year. This is probably like 4 months ago, to make a decision on the cover. Like Seth, I could not do it. I was snapping at my husband. I wasn't sleeping. I was breaking out. I was super irritable. I was wasting so much money and so much time, frustrating a ton of people because we kept going back to the lab, redesign. And I'm a creative director. It's like my second job. I love art, and I'm involved in all the process, right? So visual identity is very important to me, and I lead creatively in my business. That's a big cornerstone. So the way things look and feel sort of tell a story before I even say a word. So I'm involved in this process, and I'm ticking a bunch of people off because I cannot make a decision. Everybody wants to move on, and we need a cover because we have to start marketing this book. You get the vibe. So all of a sudden, I'm like, we go to the lab and we do a final redesign, and I wake up in the middle of the night and I go, it was like 2:30 in the morning, and I go, I know why I cannot make a decision. And the reason why I couldn't make a decision on the cover of the book is because the cover of the book, specifically the title of the book, it was a tagline assigned to me by a brand manager, a lovingly big, beautiful brand manager who had the best of intentions, but she thought that this tagline was going to make me more marketable in corporate America, because what I wanted to do was a little too out there and people weren't going to understand it, because I wanted the book to be called Holler at Your Dreams. I wanted to create this manifesto, 365 dangerously inspiring ideas to help people do just that, to come back home to themselves. But she thought it would be safer to call this Be the Verb. Be the Verb, which is cool and cute. So we rebranded my website. The website I destroyed and burned down and built to Holler at Your Dreams. We burned it down again and called it Be the Verb. And then the book was going to be the Verb. And we were rebranding the whole mission to Be the Verb, but I wasn't sleeping. I was sick to my stomach again, couldn't make a decision. And what hit me, and this is another big, major, this is what I talk about on keynote stages now. This is one of the red threads in my talk, and it's a life changer, and it's this. So if you're driving right now, you might want to pull over. If you got a notebook, write this one down. But what I learned is that if something doesn't belong to you, it will not stay with you, and you will not want to stay with it. Be the Verb was not mine. So the next morning, it was about 3 a.m, I finally get myself back to sleep. I wake up, call my team, and I pissed off, excuse my language, I ticked off probably 8 people. The right one stayed, the rest had to go. And I called it all back home. And I said, this is where we're going. This is what I see. This is what we're building. I am here to use this verb I was born with to help people holler at their dreams and to be the full expression of who they are, because we need that now more than ever. And so I redesigned the book cover from my soul with my team. We called it Holler at Your Dreams. And here we are. And so whether it is a limiting belief, an old title, clothes in your closet. It's why, Seth, a woman will stand in her closet, or maybe guys do this too, but you'll stand in your closet and you go, oh my God, I have a closet full of clothes, but I have nothing to wear. Maybe it's because you've literally soul-wise outgrown those clothes. Maybe you're this version of success you thought for yourself. Maybe that's changed. Maybe this limiting belief you've sat with your whole life is not accurate or true anymore. Maybe this sort of pressure or this version of something you've dreamt for yourself isn't for you anymore. It's why you'll have tension in a friendship that used to feel like home. So whether it's a belief, clothes in your closet, a friend, a book title, an actual work title, when something doesn't belong to you, it won't stay with you. This is why it connects to corporate and how it connects to corporate, because what we do in corporate is old school. And I mean that with love. We love to lead with leadership, systems and strategies and tools and tactics. But if a person does not know who they are, how can they be who they are? And if they can't be who they are, they will not lead themselves effectively. So
that's where
we need to wake up the soul.
That's where the safe cracking comes in,
Yes, it's my mission. That's why I'm here.
It's easier said than done if you know who you are, and that, and then from there, your actions and kind of are harmonious and are aligned with and line up with, what you're doing and your values. But that's easier said than done, where we get on autopilot. Like you said, you get to a certain success and then you look around and people approach you and you start doing what you think you should do, or
because you're lost. Yeah.
Because you're lost, or you're not clearly in touch, or you don't take the time, or you don't have it built into how you do things to continue to stay in touch and grounded in who you are as it's transforming along the way. But Judy, the meeting professionals that you interact with, whether it's through your moderating, your emceeing, your keynotes, or all of it, what have you seen in the recent past, let's call it the post-COVID kind of swing boomerang? The meeting professional is attracted to this message of unlocking your self-expression and hollering at your dreams and building and accessing and building confidence when everything around you feels so uncertain. Tie it all into your creative revolution and the creative crisis and all of this.
Yeah. So I think what's important for certainly anyone interested in bringing this body of work into their organization, or really wanting to explore self-expressionism at large, which is a new art form, a new word I've sort of created in the world, right? We know about expression. I love expression art. I love, Basquiat, and oh my God, there's so many authors like Futura and Alexander Gerard. And I mean, I just keep Keith Harding, like there's so many artists that I'm so inspired by. So I'm like, okay, I've always loved expressionistic art, but what if we are the art? What if the human is the art? And what if we could, sort of wake up that art inside of organizations, could we paint better pictures? Because I really believe people who are awake and inspired by their lives and feel confident to go do more of that in the world, do incredible things inside of companies. So there's two things to address here for the person interested in this content. Number one, this isn't just coming from me. Let's take it from research. The World Economic Forum is reporting that the future of work is going to demand a bunch of things. But number two on the list of the top 20 things the future of work is going to demand is creativity.
Yeah.
Right underneath that,
Yeah.
creativity. I would love to see, right? First is analytics, then creativity. I'd love to be in a world where that like switches. It's like creativity and then analytics. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's talk about brain versus soul before we go, because I think that's fascinating. But so creativity is going to be demanded. Self-awareness is in the top 5. And number 3, initiative.
Yeah.
Doing something, right? And so the reason this matters is because when we have people who are creative and awake and taking initiative and aware, we have less drama, less gossip, less turnover, less overthinking, less, oh my God, Karen in accounting is, sorry, Karens. I love so many Karens I love. We'll do Susie in accounting. We got to stop it with the Karens. Poor Karens, right? So we'll say Susie in accounting is out to get me. Like someone who is self-aware and has high self-esteem is not sitting there going, oh my God, this person in accounting or this person in marketing or my boss, they're out to get me. They're out to be. No, because you know your assignment, you know who you are, you know where you're going, and you feel safe to be the full expression of that. So, if the future of work is going to demand creativity, awareness, and initiative, then how? The question then becomes, how do we as leaders create environments where our people can do that? And then how as people do we figure that out? So my 6 laws of self-expressionism teach that. And the number 2 to your question for anyone thinking about bringing this work in and what we need to understand loud and clear, that is that hollering at dreams, self-expression. This is not about being loud. This is not about going rogue. This is not about being a jerk. Well, I'm self-expressing. So this doesn't mean like, oh, because you're self-expressing, you be a jerk. No, this is about aligning organizational accountability with individual authenticity. So I sort of paradoxically put these laws together. Each one of the 6 laws sort of aligns with the acronym of Holler to make it fun and to help me stay on track on stage. But each one of the 6 laws, a paradox on purpose, because laws and rules keep people safe. And we need to give structure to self-expression, because untethered self-expression is rogue. I've been there where I've been all over the place, throwing darts at the board. Is she this? Is Judy that? People, I think, to be frank, Seth, couldn't book me for a minute in those years I was lost because I was all over the place. It was so apparent. People were like, we love you, but how are we booking you right now? So we need to tether the self-expression and anchor it with some structure. And so I sort of, in my keynotes, give leaders a structure so that it isn't rogue and chaotic. It's really aligned, and it's not about blind effort, all this effort and output. It's about really just like alignment. And I think we've gotten to a place, like you said, it's really hard because we're more in tune with the algorithm than the rhythm of our own lives. And so I sort of help people figure out how to get back in touch with self. And when you know who you are, you can be yourself. And when you be yourself, you do the best work of your life, whether you're in corporate or not, because you're attuned and awake
100%,
and inspired.
100%, yeah. I would say, again, I don't want to beat this dead horse, but I think you were so vulnerable and open about it. 7-figure, and you were almost following an algorithm metaphorically until you woke up and got back in touch with yourself. Because on this podcast, we have highlighted exactly what you're saying. And I've gone as far to say that the new MBA is an MFA. And I'm not saying that you have to go and study sculpture or, Portuguese sonnets from the 15th century, or be, this high classic artist, or, be a student of the art. But the unlocking and the safe cracking of the artist in all of us is that access to the self-expression, which I think you're pointing to in the age of the algorithm, in the age of AI, in the age of whether it's hybrid work, fully remote, or all in person, anywhere today, it requires a creativity, which I'm going to bring it all the way back to your origin of being in, Second City and improv, because improv is a pure art form in the sense that you have to create something from nothing. And what
Yes.
I think that skill, Judy, and talk a little bit about, you know, how you see the value of the improv in the through line of what you do. To me, the need, the requirement to be present, to dance in the conversation, to be free to swing out, to be fully take the lid off of your expression is an aspect or a form of mindfulness, which is another tool, another skill, another way to access productivity, communication, collaboration, innovation, and the like. To talk to us a little bit about, your background there and how you use it, with meeting professionals and the groups that you present to.
Oh, so good. By the way, MFA, mindfulness. What was an MFA?
No, the Master of Fine Arts. So you have the
Fine
MBA, but
art. Thank you.
really
Okay.
you could be the mindfulness fine arts.
I
The
wasn't
point
sure if you
is that
yeah.
I think that to your point, you mentioned, structure and strategies, and those are all important in action and milestones and measuring performance and all this kind of stuff still has its place. But the premium and the over
Oh, yeah.
indexing on creativity is the pendulum is swinging that way.
We're there. We are there. And those of us who are not looking at it and not prioritizing it will be left in the dust, period. Right. And so, this doesn't mean you're going to go start your own business or leave the organization. It just means you're going to wake up your people creatively and like tap into what inspires them. I mean, for example, I was doing improv while working in corporate America. And I did that very successfully for many, many years. Improv at night, corporate America by day. And ultimately, I sort of always knew I was going to do something different with my life and career. And I think ultimately the sales aspect of my job, the presenting was my favorite part. And so I think sneakily, not sneakily, but like sneakily with myself, I sort of just I had to save enough money. I just started chipping away and saving the money to be able to like fund this dream full time. I always say like, that quote, like, just jump and the net'll catch you. I'm kind of
Yeah.
like, really? The whole reason we jump out of a plane is because there's a parachute on our back. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? So I like started saving my money, but like, it doesn't mean this work doesn't mean we're going to come into your organization. Everybody's going to quit their job and go like, etch Picasso paintings. No, I'm talking about what are your people inspired by? And so for improv for me was a big inspiration for a really long time. And it really shifted as a corporate person, how I handled pain, how I failed, how I had conversations, how I listened, how I collaborated. Yes, and to answer your question is the biggest. I use improv on every stage I get on. My old talk, I say old talk, it's still a fan favorite. So I have two talks, Everyday Improvisers, kind of like my corporate fan favorite, original OG talk that I built my business off of. And she's just, one of the loves of my life. But the new body of work is the transformational art of self-expressionism. And I still use improv in both scenarios, just use them differently. And one of the key things I explore in my new talk is the O in the framework, openness.
Mm.
Because I believe the key to longevity in career and in business, create entrepreneurial or corporate, is openness, is having that yes and mindset. It's saying, okay, we got a mountain in front of us right now. And instead of going like, and I did not see this mountain coming when I was hiking, I did not know how close this mountain was, but I have a mountain in front of me right now. And instead of going, you know what? I am not a mountain person. I do not climb mountains. I don't even have a backpack. Are you kidding me? This is not my thing. This is not my vibe. I'm going to stay in this tent safely on the ground. I do not know. No, baby. We instead go, actually, there's a mountain and I guess we're going up today. So grab
Yeah.
me my stuff. I guess I'm going to get to the top of this mountain because the analogy, you get to the top of the mountain and what happens? You see a whole new world you didn't even know existed. So we want to be open, right? We want to have that like yes and mindset. Like things are working for us. They're not happening to us. And, we're not victims around the holoverse. I call it the holoverse, the people that sort of spin around my world. We happen to things and we understand that excuses are a way fear tries to block us because fear wants to keep you stuck safe and just the same, right? And we're trying to shift into new paradigms and into new dimensions. And so one of the big biggest things I think a corporate leader listening right now, and I'm just curious, if you're listening right now, if I were to come up to you, by the way, and if you ever meet me in a networking environment, I will ask you this question because it happened to me and I got caught off guard and I was so embarrassed because I couldn't answer
All
this
right.
question
Let's hear
that
it.
okay, so I was Cliff Notes on the story. I was getting a tour of a golf course and this caddy is like, our golf manager is like making small talk with me and he turns around and my husband's like looking at something and he turns around and he says, so small talk, right? He looks at me and he goes, so what do you do? As people do. And I said, well, I'm a keynote speaker. I'm an author. And then he goes, naturally, when you say this to people, they go, so cool. What do you speak about? I said, well, I talk about fear. And this is back when, when I was really running with my first book and all that stuff. And I still talk about courage, of course. And he goes, oh my God, that's amazing. Second City Improv. And he goes, you got to tell me. And this kid's like 24 years old. And he looks at me and he goes, and I was like, so impressed. Now I'm so impressed. But he looks at me and he goes, oh my God, that's so cool. Keynote speaker, author, Second City. You got to tell me what inspires your work.
Mm.
And I'm an artist. And I literally was like not ready. I was shook. I was like, like flumbled all over, probably pulled some stuff together, some books I was reading. And you know how when you're talking to someone and you could see their eyes kind of glaze over and like you can see that you're losing them. I was losing Chris. Like Chris was gone. I couldn't get out of that golf cart fast enough. I was so embarrassed. I felt so cringe. And I vowed to myself to never again allow that to happen to myself. So I go to that night, I open my iPhone and I go to my notes app and I start a list and it's still ongoing to this day. I could even read to you what's on my list because sometimes I take things off, sometimes I add to it. Sometimes things are always on my list like Gilda Radner and, Second City and disco balls and, how a cactus blooms in the desert. That is so inspiring to me. So I started a list that was like things, people, places, and things that inspire me so that I'm actively in the hunt and keeping score in my life. One of my favorite graffiti artists, Futura, said his dad always used to ask him, are you keeping score? Are you keeping score? And he realized his dad wasn't talking about the game in New York and the games that are going on in New York. He was talking about, are you keeping score in your life? Like, what are you looking at? And where are you pulling energy from? And so I have always kept that list. It to this day exists. And I am always looking for things to be inspired by. So that is a question from the stage I pose to the audience. And it's now one of my favorite networking questions. Instead of what do you do? And how's the weather? And where's vacation? And all this boring stuff. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
What inspires you? Because now, Seth, I know your soul. I know who you are. I don't get the corporate mask. I get you. What are you reading? What are you listening to? I mean, the fact that you're from interest, I just look at the shelves on your wall. I can get a picture of what inspires you, right? And this helps me tap into the essence of you. And is that anywhere in your life? Is this awake? Are the colors of Argentina? Is the flavor of Argentina? Do you fuse that into your website, into your business, into your conversations? Do you have your favorite story about your most exciting? You see what I'm saying here? This is accessible to all of us. And if you want to create interesting things on stage as a writer, as a keynoter, and certainly inside of corporations, we got to be awake. So go be inspired by your life. And I think that right there is a simple thing everybody can do today to start thinking about, am I a robot? Am I going through the motions? Have I slowed down to look at the trees? Have I taken a walk without my phone recently? Have I gone to an art museum? Because the art museum is a void without the people in it. The people, the humans, the souls bring it to life. So we want people inside of our organizations who are inspired by their life because guess what they're going to do? They're going to bring Argentina to the boardroom.
Yeah.
They're going to bring Second City to the meet.
This connects with me because and just to clarify, when I say an MFA, again, it's not that you're going to go and learn how to do watercolors like George O'Keeffe. It's that if you can relate to yourself on the simplest level as an artist, as a creative, as somebody who can get something from nothing. For me, taking photographs that turn me on, writing a beautifully crafted sentence, whether it's to somebody in my family, my wife or my daughters, or to a client or something for work. It's the crafting of an adventure with my family, a simple, beautiful bike ride through. We live in on a river and near a marsh, and these are the kind of things that if you're in that mindset of being open to be inspired, then the inspiration is limitless and everywhere. And, I think your approach and your framework and, your energy, you've gone from improviser to influencer. You're incredibly energetic and edgy, but you're also trusted by, the Four Seasons, all these great brands, Marriott, Ford, T-Mobile, that
Yeah.
you've brought your message to. And I know our audience, our subscribers, come to this podcast for that message and that energy and that insight. So, I know you and I could go on forever. I want to feel like I'm ending it a little bit short here. We'll say goodbye temporarily and pick it up at another point down the road. But I just want to thank you so much for your energy, your spirit, your graciousness, and your willingness to just swing out and lay it all out for us. Just thank you so much.
Thank you for trusting me with your beautiful audience. This was fun.
You got it. You got it. And to our audience, again, thanks for continuing to come back. For the first timers, we appreciate you coming in. We'll see you next time.